Hello and happy new year everyone. My name is Sophia Tablo Salam. If this is your first time on my channel, do well to like, share and subscribe. So in this tutorial, I'm going to be showing you how to make a shirt. So be it free size shirt or close fitted shirt, any kind of shirt, this is the basic that you are going to need. So to start with, I'm going to be marking out 2.5 inches from the center front. Please, we are starting with the front pattern. So from the center front, you are going to mark out 2.5 inches. So this 2.5 inches is going to be for our placket. But the reason why we are using 2.5 inches, I'm going to explain that to you later on in this video. So just mark it out like this and set aside. So all our measurement now is going to be starting from this 2.5 inches, not from the original center front. So the next thing now is I'm marking out 1 inch from the top. So this 1 inch is just going to be my starting line. I don't want to start my measurement from the top of the paper. So my measurement is going to be starting from this 1 inch. It's just the margin line, no big deal. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to mark out my shoulder to waist measurement and shirt length. So the shoulder to waist measurement I'm working with is 17, while the shirt length is 29. So I'm just going to mark that out now and square it out with my ruler. So actually this pattern, you can actually do it directly on your fabric if you have a maybe like Ankara or any solid fabric with you, but the fabric I want to use to make this shirt is too light and it's soft, so that's why I'm using a pattern paper. If not, I would have drafted it directly on the fabric. So now I'm just going to go ahead and label these lines, this waistline and the shirt length or M line, anything you want to label it. So next thing now is to impute our shoulder measurement. The shoulder I'm working with is 16, so 16 divided by 2 is going to give me 8. Then I'm going to add ½ inch to that to make it 8.5. So I'm just going to mark that 8.5 downward like this. Please don't mind the way I'm placing my tape. I don't like working with the edge of the tape. That's why I'm placing the tape like that. So just know that shoulder divided by 2 plus ½ inches is what I mark out now. Then I'm going to work on the neckline. So the neck width I'm going to be working with is 3 inches, which is standard. Then I'm going to be doing a neck depth of 2.5 instead of 3 inches. The reason why I'm doing 2.5, I'm going to be explaining to you later on. So if your client is on the plus size, the neck depth you should use is 3 inches. But if your client is on a small size, say bust 36 downward, you can do 2.5. But this client is on the plus size, but I'm still using 2.5. I'm going to explain to you guys later on in this video. So just follow through and try to get what I'm trying to say first. So the next thing now is to create our shoulder slope. So from my margin line, I'm going to go down by 1 inch like this, then connect it into the neck point with a straight line like this. So just connect it. The next thing I'm going to do after this is to determine my armhole depth. To do this, I'll need my bust circumference. So the bust I'm working with is 46. So 46 divided by 6 is going to give me 7 point something. Then I'm going to add 1.5 to that to make it 9. But this 9, if I use it directly, it will be too much for the client because she's on the plus size. So I'm going to be using 8, and I will mark this 8 from the shoulder slope. 8 inches. Can you see? So I will need to extend this 8 inches forward. So I will need to measure it from the top, which is 9. I hope you get what I'm saying. I'm just trying to extend this 8 inches forward. Please, if your client is very busty, don't use their bust divided by 6 plus 1.5. It is going to be too big. The hammer will be too big. I hope you get it. Just reduce it by 1 inch. Whatever you get, reduce it by 1 inch. So next thing I'm going to do now is to impute my bust divided by 4. So then I'm going to add 1.5 for his. I told you it's a free size shirt, so I can add as much allowance as I want. I hope you get it. Then I'm going to get the midpoint of this line. Then from this midpoint, go in by ½ inch to create our armhole curve. Remember, I told you this is the front pattern we are working on. So just use your curve ruler to create the curve like this. Thing now is to start working on the hem of the shirt. So because the shirt is longer than the hip, so I'm going to need my shoulder to hip measurement, which is going to be a guide to create what I want to do. So the shoulder to hip measurement I'm working with is 27, so I'm just going to mark that out now. Note, this is just a guide. If the shirt you are working on is, if the shirt length is shorter than your hip measurement, you don't need to rule it out, but because mine is longer, that's why I'm doing this. So on the hip line, I'm going to impute my hip divided by 4. The hip I'm working with is 50 divided by 4 is 12.5, so I'm just going to mark that on the hip line and on the M line. Then I'm going to add 1.5 for ease allowance. So if you are making a something that is not as free as this, you can reduce your ease allowance. I hope you understand it. So I'm now going to connect from the bust point to the hip point with a straight line like this. So I'm just going to connect it. So now the next thing now is to work on the waist. The waist I'm working with is 40. So 40 divided by 4 is going to give me 10. So now I'm going to measure what I have on this waistline now. So I have something like 13.5 or 13.25 or thereabout. So I have 3 point something more than what I'm supposed to have. So in this case, so I'm just of all going to mark out what I'm supposed to have, which is 10 inches. Then I'm going to add my 1.5 inches for ease allowance, as you can see. So that means I can use the remaining allowance to create a shape on the side of my shirt. But this is optional. You can decide to just leave your shirt like this to make the side straight, and you can decide to do what I'm about to do right now, use the remaining to create a cuff. And if you want to put a dart, you can just mark out your dart allowance from here. Now after you mark your ease allowance, mark like maybe 1 inch dart allowance, half inch dart allowance or something, so you can just mark it out. I hope you understand. So like I told you, if your shirt is not free, the 1.5 inches ease allowance is too much. You can reduce it to like 1 inch or 0.75 inches. I hope you get. So I hope you understand everything I've said right now. So on your whatever you have on your waistline, mark out your waist divided by 4, then your ease allowance and your dart allowance if you want to put dart. But you can decide to leave it straight, or you choose to do cuff like I have just done on the side of the shirt like this. I hope you understand it. So I just use the pointy part of my French cuff to blend the cuff on the waist. So the next thing now is to start working on the placket. Remember I told you to mark out 2.5 inches for your placket. Yes, so the placket width I actually want to do is 1 inch, just 1 inch. Your placket width can be as high as 1.25 inch, and it can be as low as 0.75. But me, I like to work with 1 inch because it is easier. I hope you understand. So now whatever placket width you choose to do, be it 0.75 or 1.25, just multiply it by 2.5. Because my own placket width is 1 inch, 1 times 2.5 is still 2.5. That is why I asked you to mark 2.5 inches for your allowance. So now this 2.5 inches, I will need to divide it in 3 places in such a way that I will have 1 inch, 1 inch, and half inch. I hope you get it. So that is what I'm trying to do now in this video. I'm trying to divide it into 3 places in such a way that I will have 1 inch in 2 places, and the last one is going to be half of an inch. So after you divide it, just take your ruler to rule it out like I am doing in this video right now. So just rule it out from top to your M line. Then when you are done, you start folding it in. So if you are working on your fabric directly, I would advise that you put stay or paper stay around this area before you start folding. You use iron to put it there. But if you are working on, but the best thing is watch this video to the end before you start working on your fabric. I hope you get it. So now I'm going to fold it in one after the other. I'll start with the first 1 inch from the center front. Fold the first one in neatly and gently. You don't have to rush. So that if you are working on your fabric, do it neatly so that you don't have uneven. Make sure the whole place is relaxed and balanced. I hope you get it. So I'm done folding the first one, so I'm going to fold in the second 1 inch now. Can you see? I'll fold in the second 1 inch like this. So just fold it neatly. So this new the last half of an inch is going to stay with my front pattern. So this is going to be like an extension for my front pattern. If I don't do this, my shirt, after my client wears it, especially if your client is busty, if you don't extend your front by half of an inch like this, the shirt will be opening up. You'll be seeing their body, especially around the bust area. So that is why you need to do this for your busty client, most especially. If you don't do this for your maybe small size client, you may go scot free, but busty clients, you must do it. I hope you understand. The best thing, whether busty or not busty, do this for your client. Another thing is the 2.5 inches neck depth. I told you I'm going to explain why. I told you I was supposed to do 3 inches, but I did 2.5. The reason is because if you do this half-inch extension, front extension, and you do 3 inches, by the time 3 inches neck depth, by the time you put your collar, the collar will be looking too big. It will be looking too long. So though you may not really notice this for your busty client, but if your client is on the small size and you do half-inch front extension, you do neck depth of 3 inches, by the time you attach your collar, it will be looking so long and it will be looking funny. You will not like it. So that is why ever since I noticed that, I started reducing the depth of my neck from 3 inches to 2.5. So if my client is on the small size, in fact, instead of doing 2.5 for them, I do 2, because I know that I'll still extend the center front. I hope you get it. So now the next thing now I'm going to do is to add sewing allowance to the shoulder slope. Another thing you can do is to add half-inch sewing allowance to your neck area. Please add it. I didn't add it in this video. Please add half-inch sewing allowance to your neckline. I hope you get it. So next time I'm just going to add 1 inch on the side of the shirt as my sewing allowance. The only thing I've added so far is the ease allowance. So now I'm adding the sewing allowance of 1 inch to the pattern. Thing I want to do now is to create like a curve around the hemline. I don't want to leave it straight like this because it looks basic to me. So to do that, I'm not going to need my bust span measurement as a guide. This is just a guide though. I hope you understand. You can do whatever you want. So the bust span measurement I'm just working with is 8 inches. 8 divided by 2 give me 4. So I mark it from the center front forward. Then I went up 2 inches from the hemline, which is exactly on the hip line, and I try to connect it with a straight line into the 4 inches I did before. But this still doesn't look good to me, so I decided to do 1 inch above the hip line like this. Then from the side I went in 1 inch from after the sewing allowance. I hope you understand. Then I connected it into the bust span measurement I did. I hope you get. I told you the bust span measurement I used is just a guide. There is no big deal. You can draw your curve however you want it. So to start drafting the back pattern, I've already marked out my margin line, which is that one. Then I did extra 1 inch, which is going to be an extension for the back pattern at the top. I think I've said it before that anytime you are making any cloth that has collar, always extend the back at the top by 1 inch. This is very important so that it will make the shirt to sit right, or the clothes or dress to sit right on around your neck area. I hope you understand. So from after this 1 inch extension, I'm going to mark out my shoulder to waist measurement of 17 inches and shoulder to hip, then my shirt length of 29. I have marked it out. So the next thing now is to impute the shoulder like I did. The shoulder is 16 divided by 2 is 8. Then I'm going to add half inch to make it 8.5. Then I'm just going to extend it downward like this. Then I'm going to take my ruler to connect it with a straight line. After this, I'm going to work on the neck width. The neck width I did for the front is 3 inches. So I'm not going to mark this 3 inches from the extension. Remember that 1 inch is for the extension. On top of it, that's where you are going to mark your 3 inches neck width, and I'm going to maintain that 1 inch as my neck depth. I hope you understand. So I'm just going to take my curve ruler to create a slight curve around there. So my neck depth is 1 inch, and I used the 1 inch extension I did. So now I will need to do the shoulder slope. Since that one is 1 inch, I'm just going to connect like this into the neck point, like I'm doing right now. I hope you understand it. So notice that everything I have done so far is still inside the 1 inch extension I did for the back. I hope you get it. So now we need to work on our armhole depth. To do our armhole depth, we need to consider the original shoulder slope we are supposed to have. So I'm supposed to mark this 1 inch like this, like I've done in this video now. I just mark out the original shoulder slope. So now it is from this original shoulder slope, from after it, I'm going to mark my bust divided by 6 plus 1.5, which was supposed to be 9. But because this person is busty, so I'm going to be using 8. So that is why I marked this 8. So I will need to extend this 8 forward. So if I measure from the original thing, I'll be having 9. That's why I have 9 there, and I'm just going to connect it straight like this. I hope you understand everything I've said so far. So I'm going to get the midpoint of this 8 from this point. I hope you get it from the original shoulder so that we're supposed to have. So I get the midpoint of 8, which is 4. Then I'll keep it there. Then I'm going to impute my bust divided by 4, which is 11.5. So, and I'm going to add 1.5 ease allowance. So I'm now going to take my curve ruler to connect these points together like this. So then after that, I'm going to go to the hip line. The hip line, I'm going to impute my hip divided by 4 measurement. The hip I'm working with is 50. 50 divided by 4 is 12.5. Then I'm going to impute it on the hip line and on the hem line. 12.5. Then I'm going to add 1.5 inches ease allowance as well. So everything is there. So now I'm going to connect the straight line from the bust point into the hip point like this. So the next thing now is to work on the waist like I did for the front. The waist I'm working with is 40. So 40 divided by 4 is going to give me 10. So I'm first of all going to mark out that 10 inches. Then I'm going to include my ease allowance of 1.5. Then the remaining one, I'm going to use it as to create shape on the side of the shirt like I did for the front. Like I told you, if you want to put that at the back, you can still factor it out there. 1 inch that allowance, half inch that allowance, however you want it before you draw your shape. And you can decide to just leave the line straight instead of creating the shape I'm creating right now. So it is totally depends on you, however you want your shirt to look. So the next thing now is I'm going to add sewing allowance of 1 inch to the pattern like I'm doing right now. Then I'm just going to take my ruler to connect it. So the next thing now is I'm going to add half inch sewing allowance to the shoulder slope. So I'm sorry about the camera. I didn't know the camera had tilted when I was filming. That's why I didn't adjust it. So just know that I only added half inch sewing allowance to the shoulder slope. The next thing now is the hem. From the center back, I'm going to mark my bust span divided by 2, which is 4. Then from the hip line, I'm going to go up by 1 inch. Then square it out like this. Then from the side, ignoring the sewing allowance, I'm going to go in by 1 inch like this. So from this 1 inch, I'm going to connect into the bust span divided by 2. Note that this curve that I'm creating is my own choice. You can decide to go up as much as 3 inches above your hip, 4 inches above your hip, however you want the curve, how curvy you want it to be. I hope you get it. So the next thing I need to explain is the hem line. I forgot to mention it. Please don't forget to add hemming allowance or taping allowance to the hem of your shirt. So I added 1 inch to mine. So you can do 2 inches. I don't, however you want it, you can do half inch. Just don't forget to add your hem allowance to the, or taping allowance to the hem like I have just done. I did my off camera, so I'm going to do the same thing for the front pattern as well. I'm going to add hem allowance. So whether you want to add the taping allowance to the pattern paper or you want to add it when you are cutting it out on the fabric. Just don't forget it. Another thing is this neckline. Please don't forget to add ½ inch to the neckline. I didn't mention it before, but I'm mentioning it now. I figured it out after I finished making this shirt. Please add ½ inch to your to the neckline. This is going to make the collar look perfect, so it doesn't look too long or too look funny. I hope you get it. Please add it to both the front pattern and the back pattern. On the neckline, add ½ inch sewing allowance to it. So I'm done cutting out the back pattern. I'm just going to label it so I don't mix it up. So now I'm going to cut out the front pattern. And remember, when I was drafting the front pattern, I didn't add 1 inch for taping the hem line. So I'm going to add it now, so that by the time I'm cutting it out on the fabric, I'm just going to cut it straight up. So I'm just going to add 1 inch for the taping the hem now. I'm just going to add it all through before I cut it out. And I'm going to add ½ inch to the neckline when I'm, don't forget it, ½ inch on the neckline, don't forget it please. So we are practically done with this pattern drafting, and the video already looks like it is long, so I won't be including the sewing tutorial in this particular video. So my next video now is going to be on how to sew this shirt. Sewing the shirt is actually straightforward and simple, so you don't need to worry about anything. And I'm going to make sure that I don't make the tutorial too long, so that you can watch it quick and move on with whatever you want to do. So thank you so much for watching my video. I'm very grateful. So, and if this is your first time on this channel, do well to like, share and subscribe. And please, if you have anything that you do not understand in this tutorial, do well to leave it for me in the comment section. I'm going to try to reply to you as soon as I can. As soon as I see it, I'm going to reply immediately. So thank you so much. God bless you guys. See you guys in my next tutorial. Bye bye.